XRP, XLM, 𝗕𝗓𝗪 have all been going completely insane over the past couple of days. And a very interesting question is, well, will this set on further? Do we expect the market to continue towards great heights from here? Or do we expect this is the end? The new all-time high for XRP has been reached, and from here it's basically going to be downwards only. This is where the negativity starts, and I wish I sold everything. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I will be discussing exactly from which to which price I would personally buy, from which to which price I would personally sell. And even though I am not a financial advisor, none of this is financial advice, and I'm just telling you this because I want to explain my strategy. I also want to make sure you understand, I am not guaranteeing you anything. No guarantees are made in this video, and again, I am not a financial advisor. This is just for entertainment purposes, just for fun. And if you're looking for the platforms I am personally trading on, I've always got them in the description down below. This is the first platform I trade on right there. Second platform is a little bit below it. You'll find it. And also, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you go ahead and press that like button. And let's now talk some XRP. So if we're talking specifically XRP, where buy, where sell, my personal strategy is momentum investing. I look for strong trends, in this case upwards, and I expect them to continue on further. For XRP, we can see the trend over the last couple of months has primarily been downwards, but if we zoom out even further, we can see we had a major impulse before this downtrend. This major impulse lasted how long? Well, we can see it lasted roughly about 80 days or so. The price went up a few 100% as it went from 50 cents to about $3.40. And the moment it started going, you can see there were indeed a couple of red days, here even 4 or 5 red days in a row, but generally speaking, the trend was just very, very powerful. What did we learn in there? Well, if we actually would have gotten into any one of these earlier candles, because we saw XRP go huge, it could have been that we were down for a few days, but generally speaking, throughout this entire period, we would have been up tremendously. Could you say the same thing for this trend right here? Well, theoretically speaking, anywhere we would have bought at in this point, we would right now also be up tremendously because XRP right now is sitting at all-time high levels. Then again, it would have taken some time, and potentially, if we had bought too early into this type of pump, would have not felt so good. But to counter that, that is late into the momentum, right? That is when the market has already pumped hundreds of percent in this case here. If we were to copy that stick, that impulse upwards over, we basically, if we just copy it on a log basis, you can see how crazy these things could get. Again, I'm not guaranteeing you any of these prices. I'm just saying relatively, right? If we take a look at those weeks of impulse and we relatively just push them over, it is really not that crazy to assume that this is the start of the next rally, right? And from that perspective, that a few 100% gains also could be flowing here. Remember, guys, usually the initial impulses like this one right here are actually a higher percentage than the afterwards because, well, the market cap increases multiple folds. And the bigger it gets, the harder it is to gain, right? But regardless of that, I still think we will see a few 100% here. $3, for example, to $10, my own personal opinion, it's not that crazy of a move. So where would I be buying then? Well, from that angle, even right now, all of this, we are down from the all-time high, 344. When I look at the comments, people say, oh, this is so high, I want to see a major pullback. Well, I think about this in two ways. One is I don't know if there's going to be a heavy pullback. The price already just now went down about 9% or so from its all-time high from the price earlier today, which theoretically speaking is quite the blessing. But also, I see it from a completely different angle. Almost anybody that's been in crypto for a while knows that when the market is really, really winning, right, we've already established we are taking a bit of a risk by opening a position or staying in one near all-time high levels. Because anybody sane would sell. Why? Because you're at the opportunity to sell for the highest price point ever seen. That's an opportunity most would take. But if we reflect that back to Bitcoin, Bitcoin topped out many times throughout the season. Yet if you'd held it every single time, then right now you'd be at the highest point ever, $120,000 at BTC. And the lesson in that is if you just, every single time it made a high, for example, for Bitcoin, kept on adding, even if it was the top, it was winning, well, it's kept on winning. It's kept on going better. And essentially, if you just kept it up, regardless of whether or not it was a high, a low, or whatever, if the assumption is that it will make a even higher high, as long as your leverage is not too great, that should be a winning strategy. And if you're wondering why I'm explaining it this way, from the angle that, well, even though we are at a high, this may not be the final high, watch this video.
I'm getting ready to go to bed. And I can't lie to my people. I have a confession. I sold XRP when it went up to 240 because the guy who told me to buy it told me that I should sell it because he thought Circle would compete with him. And he was unhappy with it. It's up 60% since I sold it, and I would have made millions, and I want to cry, and I don't own it anymore. Even though I was like the leader of the XRP army, I sold it. Good night.
Now, did he do bad? That depends on where he bought in and where exactly he sold at, right? It could be that he doubled his money, and so essentially he made a very good trade. Now, was it optimal? A few days after he decided to get out, the price suddenly did a 60% move. Now, what if we don't say tomorrow, next 2 days, next 3 days, next week, next 2 weeks? What if we say the next following weeks, or this few month time span where most of us expect the real altcoin season to be? Then from that angle, even many people that normally do not support XRP have seen the massive momentum that's been going into it, and also are pushing for prices that are way higher than what we are seeing right now. Even though it's not a necessity, it's not a guarantee, right? 𝗫𝗁𝗃 did have an interesting tweet, which was, life is really short, take a chance, go long. And why do you think I have not stopped myself out of this $1 million XRP trade, even though we are up $350,000? Why do I keep it open, and why did I just buy some more? I just bought $60,000 as XRP dipped down. Why did I do that? Well, first of all, because if you see it from the angle of the all-time high now is 366, and we sold a little bit right there, which we bought back at 338, right? 366 to 338, a nice little flip, roughly 7-8% or so. A difference, which in my opinion is a pretty free trade. Okay, I have to stop the video for a second. I'm in a hotel room, as you can see, right, from all this. The guy, the room service just came. It's like, oh, here's your order. I'm like, what? Where is it? He gave me this. Some ketchup and some mayo. He's like, here you go, enjoy. I'm like, where's the food? He's like, that's all right. I said, no, where's the food? He's like, well, is this not all you ordered? I said, no, this is not all I ordered. Anyway, what I was going to say is that essentially we are right now multiple percents from the all-time high. And from that angle, all these prices are considered as dips. And that's also why I'm only thinking of adding, not necessarily thinking of selling. Because I still believe the market is going to be going higher. I've even bought another position worth about, how much, 20K or something like that? Worth of XRP here, 5,000 XRP. That's actually denominated in XRP. It's the first time I'm doing something like that. Just a new bot I've set up for myself. So this basically trades XRP to try and make more XRP. We put 5,000 XRP in, and since this morning, it's gotten me about 23 XRP or so, which you might think is not that crazy, but I'm even thinking maybe I should just do a new challenge, 10,000 XRP to 100,000 XRP, some challenge like that. Or even with this, just do a little bit of a challenge to try and stack it up to see how much XRP we can stack, just like I've been doing with my 10K to a million challenge, because we've already gone from 10K to 40K in just a little bit over 2 months. And again, all the links that you need are down below. Payonix is the platform for my bots, and all my main trades like the $1 million trade are on Blowfin, which is this one right here. And so again, to conclude, where exactly would I be buying? Well, even at all these prices, I still bought just now. And even if I had no position, I'd still personally get in just now. Well, preferably, right, a little bit under the 350 mark, just because of a mental thing where it's kind of annoying to buy above 340 even, because that was the local previous high. And because it dips every single time just below the 340 range, it would have been easy to get in here multiple times. So if you're buying above that, mentally, it might just feel a bit annoying. Now, there is a probability of a breakdown, but again, following my bot strategy, it will just automatically buy its way down. But from our own angle, if we miss 340, and again, I've gone really, really hard in my mental commitment at, again, the 330 or so mark, right? We just bought a little bit right there. If it bounces again, every single time, if I want to sell the top right now, I would buy in again, roughly at this spot. if this were to break, a lot of people have been talking about the 330 mark, but I think it's too sudden, right? If I was trying to really max out my swing, I could actually also get some orders in at 330, right around that level. You can see we touched it once, then it acted as support, but afterwards we broke through really, really hard. But really, the major supports come from 310, 35, 30, and that's the point right here. It's actually not that deep of a liquidity pool we've got because we passed this zone so quickly, right? We've touched 340 a lot of times in the past. Right now, it seems to be, again, the most interesting area of support and resistance. But for the most part, all the interesting price action, again, is around the 305 mark. So if I wanted to set up a big order, I'd probably have a few medium orders, probably around 330, probably around 315. I'd stack up a little bit, start entering heavier at 310, start entering heavy at 305 with my main buys at 30, basically, so $3. And that's basically all I do. Because again, the probability, in my opinion, of the market falling more than 25% or so in a market like this is super small, which is why that is, again, the doom scenario where we might be a bit wrecked. We might not love opening up our screens anymore for a bit. And on the upside, I don't think it's that important to think of how high it can go. It could, theoretically speaking, in my own opinion, and I'm going to have to be very careful with titling this video because a lot of videos, a lot of streams are being taken down. YouTube is this strange in these days when the market is good. But in my own opinion, I can see this going very many multiples of the current price. Again, I'm not your financial advisor. I would never give you any financial advice. I'm not giving you any guarantees. But I personally think we could even see an XRP price as high as $20-something this season. Why? I've told you before, it was $3-ish back in 2017, 2018, right? January 4th. Then, if Bitcoin was 20,000 at the time, one simple thing we can do is just take a look at XRP's performance versus Bitcoin, because XRP was, let's say, $3.50, the same price as it is right now. Bitcoin was 20,000. So from then, how has Bitcoin done? Well, Bitcoin has gone from 20,000 to 120. So basically times 6. What has XRP done? Nothing. So from that angle, since altcoins usually outperform Bitcoin a little bit every season because they are smaller, well, and you can see that in the chart right here. This is XRP versus Bitcoin. It used to be worth so much more in Bitcoin terms. It's underperformed all these years. And if we were to go back to those levels, we've got some gains to go. And let's just say, Bitcoin has done from those levels in 2018, it went from 19 point something thousand all the way to 120, 6x. XRP from $3.50 would go to about $21, just based on following Bitcoin alone, just being one-to-one with Bitcoin. But you also have to understand that that is following Bitcoin. If Bitcoin this run does more, if Bitcoin goes this run from 120,000 to 250,000, that also could mean that XRP could see values as high as what? $40 or something like that. And again, I am not trying to say that that's very likely because XRP lost a lot of momentum in the 2021 run. That's why, to be a bit more conservative, I often shave away that entire 3x basically. So that means if my actual target, for Bitcoin, for example, was 250,000, for XRP 45, I shave it down by about 3. So in this case here, I think maybe $15 or so a coin. And I kind of think XLM and many coins of that stature, 𝗕𝗓 are in a similar situation where I just look at the current path, how things have been going, and how much they could do to get back to their old glory days. Again, some might not get there, but if we do a few multiplier factor where XRP was 3, I think it's quite nice to assume that XRP will only get back to its glory days with a deduction of what, 66%? We're expecting it to do whatever it did the past couple of runs minus 66% of those gains. I think that's not too crazy to assume. XLM in that similar way has so much more gains to do, and 𝗕𝗓, many of those coins are in just a really good spot comparing to what they've done in the past. So then comes the question, when would I sell? Well, there's a difficult story. One is, if I now am going to set up more of my trading algorithms where they actually trade for me in XRP, I might actually never have to really get rid of it because then I have both sides. On the one hand, I have got my algorithms making it in dollars. On the other hand, I have myself getting more coins. And so the only thing I got to think about is, how long do I want to stretch these strategies? Do I really want to let them run the entire bear market too? If not, then okay. Well, I think one of the wiser things I could potentially do, because remember, Even if you were holding through the entire bear market, if you were buying your way down, you'd still end up with a tremendous amount of money in the end. Because, well, even though your peak portfolio value might have been higher, it's really hard to identify when the bear market really starts. And if you'd bought consecutively every single time it went down lower, your average price for XRP, BTC, all these would be so low that still right now you'd be laughing to the bank. Even if you didn't sell last time at 70,000, right now you'd still probably have a freaking blast. So now comes the question. Do I want to go this cycle, shave it off, and then actually try to enter again the next? I will probably do that. When? Well, when I personally feel as if the altcoins are everywhere. On the news everywhere, this, that. People starting to tell me that this can never break again. Right now, if I ask, most people still say, I don't know, maybe it's not really an altcoin season. Maybe this time it's not going to happen. And the fact that that's still happening, none of my friends are asking me advice, none of this, it leads me to believe we're still quite early. Otherwise, these cryptos would be everywhere on the news, but it seems to be really quite slow. And also, you'd see way more days of consecutive 40-30% moves. Right now, even though it's cool and nice, this is usually the starting points where Bitcoin indeed is starting to slow down a bit, altcoins are taking over. But again, the severity is quite little. People still have time to sleep. People still have time to chill out. Usually in full altcoin style, you don't have that. And so when again, I'm looking at portfolio thinking, what's going on right here? Which could already be at $7 if all of a sudden the strategies popped up really nice. It could be that even at $10, I feel as if nobody is talking about it. Maybe $10 happens in 7 days. Yeah, I'm probably not going to sell that much because at that point, I think this is going to go way further. Now, again, if all of a sudden we are at $11, $13, $17, $18, $19, very fast, maybe I've sold everything already because it's just too much money. Maybe in 2 more months, we're not even at $4, right? Because we just keep going down. And the moment it goes to 5, it's so far in the run that I'm pretty eager to sell a good chunk for maybe a couple $1 million profit. So I'm going to say it depends on how fast things go. The faster they go, the higher my targets are going to be. The slower it goes, the end of the run, I personally think is going to be between now and January of 2026. So I have to also just kind of balance it out for that. But it's not a definitive price. And that's also because I do not have a definitive target with what I want to do with this money. If I had, it would probably be different. But I'm just trading to make the most out of it. And so, theoretically speaking, I'm going to be here for a long time. But the most crucial thing I've learned is in bull markets, things go up way more than you expect them to. And in bear markets, they go down way more significantly than you expect them to. But also, even in a bull, things come crashing down every now and then, and people forget that. They get too overzealous. They buy in day to day to day. I'm buying every single day, mostly to kind of circumvent this FOMO of buying in hard chunks the day before a massive correction. If I just keep myself to buying every single day, chunks, it's one way to keep my mental health okay. The other would be I enter with size to whatever I can just accept if the price goes down a certain margin, right? And then I just chill. I don't keep adding as the price goes higher and higher and higher with chunks sporadically. FOMO buying basically, because even though adding when things are going great, when the momentum is there, can actually be really nice, it can also be your downfall because you add too much at a high price, and now because of a small little decline, you get wrecked. So there's a good balance to find in that, which nobody can really teach you from a easy word to worth here, or how do you call it, like a speaking perspective. You have to learn it by trying. Somebody could tell me all the theory, and still, when you're there looking at your trade being minus 14%, and now all of a sudden that is $1 million you have to maybe exit or 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓, it's different than what anybody could have told you. I can know in theory, which I do, that this market will most likely go for the craziest run ever, and that a 30% decline is super unlikely. So I might as well risk it for the biscuit. But if all of a sudden it were to happen, the unlikely were to happen, maybe I'd feel so scared that all of a sudden I lose way more than if I had just gone slightly less on the craziness scale. Then again, I'm still multiple AMs in the long right now, as all my trades are still open. I'm not closing anything. I believe greatness is coming, but I did feel like I should quickly mention that. So no real target. This I wanted to take to at least a few $1 million, but the fun fact is, if it's up $1 million, I might as well just close a good chunk, cash out a couple $100,000, because even now at 366, I cashed out 40. Maybe if we go to 390, I'll cash another 50K, you know, and keep it kind of going that way. And if we get a good pullback, like right here, I'll buy it all right back, and so forth and so on. Just to keep a healthy cash flow going, as the worst thing you can have happen really is that you're stuck in one position and never move it again, because at that point it's going to get grandfathered in, and it's way more preferable, I personally believe, to keep cash flow, to keep trading, to keep the money flowing. If it's stuck like this, you start to make stupid decisions because the P&L is going to ruin your head. Whereas if you keep it flowing, you keep up and keep down, up and down, meaning, you know, you open a new trade, you close a new trade, and there we go, You understand that it should be flowing, and you should not necessarily be looking for the one big catch-all. Sometimes it can actually be better to take some more smaller victories, just because that way, if, again, your target is not hit, at least you've had many, many good hit targets across the road. Now, the market moves around, right? We really didn't cash out that much, whereas otherwise, I could have cashed out the full 400K just now, then maybe made another few small trades in the midst, like right here, I'd buy back in. Then again, maybe after 5% profit, I sell right back into it, you know? Made another 20,000 and so forth and so on. Right now, we're basically just waiting, which to some extent could be worse. So maybe from this video, you didn't really fully get my targets, but I try to explain it that it's all dynamic. It all depends on how the market moves. And ultimately, even at these prices, I generally speaking still think more of buying rather than selling. Some may call me stupid. They say it's all-time highs, sell everything. And I counter it by saying that even though in some theories that is indeed the best idea, if you would not feel extremely bad walking away from potentially the craziest opportunity of our generation, and you're just happy with an all-time high, then yeah, sure. But I know I would always forever regret it if the price all of a sudden did go to freaking what, 20 bucks or something like that, and I sold everything at a measly 3. It's an all-time high, sure, but it might not be the highest point of the season. It's the highest point of previous season, so that's pretty cool. But still, 2025, new round, new chances. That's just me. Again, I'm not a financial advisor though. This is not advice to you. I'm just explaining my strategy, my story, and what I am doing in the market. In no way, shape, or form am I guaranteeing you anything. And yeah, don't do anything that's not allowed. I don't know what else to tell you. I just always want to make as many disclaimers as possible, because even though it might work for me, yeah, I'm me, you're you. Yeah, that's about it. If you want to trade, I've got some links down below to the platforms I use, you know, for the bots or for the main trades. You can find all the links down below. This is 𝗏𝗏, the other one is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Check them out. And that's about it. Okay, little side update. My steaks did arrive again. I order steaks every single day right now. Again, I ordered 2, but I was wondering why they gave me ketchup and mayo. You know, he's like, is that everything? Well, at least the rest of the order has also arrived now, so that's nice.